Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for another video. Today I'm going to do a slightly new approach and I'm going to give a high-level overview of the Solar Auxilia force, which I've just started doing model and unit reviews for. The Solar Auxilia is quite a large force, and there's a few high-level tactics and abilities that I just want to talk to you about to understand how best to deploy and utilise the army. These are things that I won't necessarily cover as I go through the individual unit rules reviews. So yeah, a bit of an introduction. Here we've got Book 4 of the Horus Heresy in front of us, Conquest. Book 4 Conquest features the rules for the Solar Auxilia. So if you're interested in doing this force, this is the black book to use. There is the Imperial Militia and Knight Titan list, which is now available in a red book as well. So if you'd like a cheaper purchase, that's the one to go for as well. But if you'd like the history and a lot of nice artwork and stories to go with it, then obviously Conquest has its value. Right, so the Solar Auxilia. The Solar Auxilia is essentially the Imperial Guard in the 31st millennia, but a section of the Imperial Guard that is of a much higher quality than their 41st millennia cousins. They're more comparable to 41st millennia scions or stormtroopers, as I more commonly know them. So the Solar Auxilia is high quality troops. They've got a lot of very effective tanks, and they've got some interesting tactics as well that they're going to need if they're going to take on the likes of the Space Marine Legions and the Mechanicum. So high level force organisation points. Well, from a point of view of the Allies matrix, they're quite a versatile force. They are battle brothers and trusted comrades to most armies in the Imperial list. However, there are a few exceptions that are worth remembering. Most of these are the more brutal Space Marine Legions, so it's no surprise to see the Night Lords as distrusted allies. Likewise, the World Eaters, who were famous for killing off their own supporting troops. The Space Wolves as well, and a bit of a surprise as well, the Iron Hands. The Iron Hands were also distrusted allies. The reason for that is the Iron Hands had a reputation for using their supporting militia and Solar Auxilia troops to, shall we say, soak up the casualties at the expense of their Marines. So that's a high level. So they're quite a versatile army. They do ally well to other forces because you can get a lot of infantry. You can get 60 infantry for a mere 300 points, and they're good quality as well, and they are effective. In talking of the infantry, there is not a lot of choice in the Solar Auxilia force. You only have three basic types of infantry. You have the Las Rifle section, the Velataris, who are the elites, and then the Flame section as well. The Flamers are a support choice troop, so you can't take those as compulsory options. And each of these, for a single troop choice, you can take up to three sections to make up a tercio. So if you do the numbers, you can have an enormous number of infantry in a Solar Auxilia army if you wish. To take it to its extreme, you could have 6 lots of 60. 360 Las Rifle troops for a handful of points as well. There is one other infantry type, which is the Ogrin Charonite squad. These are an elite choice, and they are essentially Ogrins that have been surgically altered to become living weapons. They're very brutal, big tough infantry, well suited to taking on elite Space Marine close combat troops, and also battle automata from the Mechanicum. So yeah, those are high level troops that you have. You in the elite slot, you also have the Medicaid troops, so well worth taking to get feel no pain rolls for your infantry. Engine seer squads, and you can also have weapon teams as well. So the famous Thud gun, and then tracked multi-laser carriages and the like as well. So yeah, there are no heavy weapon squads in the Solar Auxilia, so the weapon teams, the rapier battery teams, fill that role if you want infantry heavy weapons. Now, being a guard type army, it's of no surprise they have a huge wealth of vehicle options, both in the fast attack and the heavy support slots. A thing that's worth noting, a lot of Solar Auxilia vehicles have some very good basic benefits or standard benefits in addition to their normal equipment, and this is called the Explorator adaptation. So this applies to many tanks that they have, and any vehicles that have this ability gain a 6+ invulnerable save against all blast weapons. That could be a real game changer. They count as void hardened in relevant scenarios, and they have to automatically reroll any failed dangerous terrain tests as standard. So that eliminates the need to spend points certainly on dozer blades, although you may still take an auxiliary drive. So yeah, that in a large battle, you can imagine that 6+ invulnerable save is going to make a difference, and will sometimes make a big difference, particularly if you save a D weapon hit. So in terms of what these look like, well, in the fast attack slot, there are Leman Russ squadrons with a whole variety of weapons. No Leman Russes in this era get sponsons. However, the fast attack option does get the outflank rule. You also get Thunderbolt and Lightning fighters. Moving on to heavy support, the heavy support slot. There is the Leman Russ Assault Squadron. Now, this is the more brutal close assault weapon. So, for example, the Leman Russ Demolisher. There's a Leman Russ Incinerator that mounts a rapid fire Volkite gun. And also the Leman Russ, I believe Annihilator, with the rapid fire plasma cannon as well. Now, the Assault Squadron, those Leman Russes have a unique feature. They firstly get an additional point of armour on the rear, but even better, they get an additional hull point. So Assault Leman Russes have 4 hull points each, so they can take as much damage as a Land Raider, which is great. They have the usual selection of artillery, so Manticores, and the usual selections of and Medusas and the other sort of guard heavy artillery options. So there's no shortage of hard hitting firepower that goes in that slot. So that's if you want a shooting army, the Solar Auxilia is good, very good for that. Also in the heavy support slot, the Solar Auxilia are allowed to take several of the Malcador variant tanks. So they can take the basic Malcador. They can also take the Infernus, which mounts the utterly devastating Torrent Flamer, which is an utterly horrific weapon. And finally the Valdor Super Heavy Tank Hunter with a neutron beam projector. So yeah, so those are heavy support choices. So they're normally in the heavy support, in the super heavy slot. So that's a real benefit, because you can take those and a Lord of War choice. And talking of Lord of War, moving on to the super heavy slot, they get obviously the Baneblade, a whole selection of Sword series tanks, so the Shadow Sword and the Storm Sword, and then they also have a unique super heavy tank called the Stormhammer, which is a Forge World model, and that's almost like it's like a fortress on tracks. It's got a tremendous number of weapon points, heavy cannons, all sorts. It's really loaded up with firepower. And then there are a couple of other options on the heavy support, which is optional heavy support, and they are allowed to take Talax Cyborg troops and Castellax Battle Automata. So to have those, you have to have a member of your force equipped with a Cortex controller, so that would be typically the engine seer, but that does open up the opportunity to have those Mechanicum as well. Other things, they have a couple of special characters. They have a Lord Marshal character called Iraton Masade. Sounds a bit like like a famous French or an infamous French aristocrat from the 18th century. And then there is also Avis Jovan, who is a renegade medic character as well. And I'll do a review on him later, so I have the model for him. So there you go. I hope you found that interesting. A high-level overview of what the force structure looks like for the Solar Auxilia, and some of the key points around that. Have we covered everything? Oh, nearly forgot. There is one other thing to talk about, and that's dedicated transports. How did I nearly forget that? The Solar Auxilia's got a couple of really good dedicated transport options. They get the Dracosan, which is absolutely awesome. Brilliant dedicated transport and can be turned into a very potent assault tank as well. And they are also allowed to take the Arvus Lighter, which is a sort of like an orbital shuttle, which you can mount with you can give some light weapons on as well to give it a bit of combat capability as well. So yes, so there you go, an overview of the Solar Auxilia. I hope you found that interesting. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments section. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you next time. Goodbye.